Okay. All right. It seems like problem solved. So we will move forward at 8:35 with the August regular meeting of the Environment and Land Use Committee. I'll call the meeting in order, and we'll do roll call committee members. Kellen Nelson, Chair, and District 14 Supervisor.
Randy Severson, Livestock Producer Member.
Stacy Klein, District Number 2.
Dave Larson, District 15.
Tony Munson, Towns Association Representative.
Andy Todd, District Number 5.
Shirley Anderson,
District 11.
County Conservationist.
Verge Gamera, Department of Land Management. I record the minutes.
Mike Kornman, Director of Land Management.
Rick Niemeyer, Corp Counsel.
Okay. I certify that open meeting law requirements have been met with proper posting. We have a 16-item agenda. With one change, we'd move item 11 to after item 5. We're looking for a move to adopt.
I'll make that.
Randy,
Second.
second. Randy made it. Tony, second. Munson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Sorry, I'll have to delay myself for Riley. Next, we have adoption of minutes from July 6th. Did everybody have a chance to read them? Any corrections or additions? Seeing none.
Motion to approve.
Motion Larson to approve. Second Todd. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We will move into item number 11, our landlocked parcels and road frontage requirements, discussion, and possible action. And I think this is where Rick comes in.
Sure, yep, I can help with this. All right, as you may recall, this was on, I think, last month's agenda as well, to start this discussion. This was prompted when an individual was looking to have a parcel divided and sold, but didn't have direct access because of the railroad system, railroad tracks that kind of cut off in between the parcels. And so this was essentially the county's attempt to try and alleviate as much as the county can when it comes to those types of situations, knowing that we can't do anything with regards to the railroad crossings themselves. So Mike and I had some discussions regarding it. We had brought something to you last month. We made a couple of revisions. I don't know if the highlighted is on the copies or not.
Yes.
It is, okay, perfect. Those are essentially the changes that were made based on the conversations that we had last month and then that Mike and I had as well too. And so just looking for any additional input. This will need to go to a public hearing before it gets officially approved, is my understanding, so.
Two items in my mind. On item 3B, I would like to see the word only inserted between the word frontage and the word due. That would, to me, would narrow the scope of it more.
Yep. That makes sense.
Any other corrections, additions, questions?
Question in regard to the ownership or recorded easement. Is a recorded easement automatically recorded to the property or to the person?
It goes with the property.
It goes to the property?
Correct, yep.
Okay.
Mhm, yep.
Any other questions, comments? I think this seems to do what we were hoping it would,
I think so anyhow.
so the best we can.
So again, the next step would be as a public hearing, and then it would come back for official adoption by the committee and forwarded on to the county board.
Do we need a motion to move it to public hearing or just schedule it?
It'll be on the, we'll just, well,
I don't think it needs one. Certainly if there is one, it's not a bad thing, but I don't know that it necessarily needs one as long as this committee is ready for it to move on to the public hearing stage.
I think, anyone like to do a motion, or are we comfortable sending it forward? Okay. I think we will move forward with it next month.
thank you for moving that up. So
Yes, no,
appreciate it.
happy to do it. Thank you.
Sorry, I got to be in a couple places at one time, so.
No, we'll work with you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have, Mike will go over our 2023 department budgets.
The Exec Finance Committee directed departments to submit budgets with, that would be subtract 1% from their levied budget from 2022. This budget does that. One of the ways we accomplish that in this budget is we have it includes increased fees, which is the next item on the agenda. One of the last year on our uniform dwelling codes, when we hired a contractor to do that role instead of a county person, we upped the fees for uniform dwelling code to cover all of our costs related to that contract. Many of the fees, and this does bleed into the next item, but I don't think they can completely go over there. So essentially, their fees in the land use sanitary area have not been updated. Some of them have not been updated since 2008. And generally, they were not designed to cover our costs. It was a low fee. So I'll just leave that for now, but just so increased fees are a part of this budget to make this work. It also includes the salary steps for 10 full-time employees are addressed in here. I also note in the cover memo the vehicle balance for the purchasing of trucks. Our trucks are very on the new side, and we can use those for quite a few years with good maintenance. So I don't anticipate any new truck vehicle purchases in the near future. And then we also have a non-lapsing planning contractual services account, which we primarily use to fund comprehensive planning. I have some more details in that regarding working with the towns on that. I'm not going to get too deep into that today. We'll have further conversations, but I just wanted to kind of set the tone on kind of, we need to do some more work working with the towns and financial planning on how we're going to work with them. We can, Becky's here to help walk us through it. If you want to go page by page on the differences, we can. If you just want to ask questions, we can do it that way as well.
What would the committee wish? Dave, I see your mic's on.
I see three, looks like part-time positions or something that they're totally eliminated in this budget. Can you give me some details, what it was, why it
Sure.
was there, why it's not there?
Sure, there was two air quote positions called egg supervisor, non-egg supervisor. Those light items go back probably 15 years in a concept that there would be some type of additional bonus salary for staff that were allocated with those duties. That never was executed through HR or in any way, shape, or form. So there's no need, that money was never allocated for those lines. The intern position, we've had an intern over the years. When we have good ones, it's great. But sometimes they can be a little bit more work than they're worth. And trying to adapt this budget, thought that was an appropriate way to allocate to other areas.
Thank you.
Printing is going to increase $8,000.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, one of the last fall we did our fall's newsletter. We had boy, tremendous amount of unsolicited positive comments. And we did that direct mail. I know it's not cheap, but with the huge amount of response, we think it's a very valuable way to reach out to citizens about what we're doing and how they can utilize conservation programs. So that's and we hope to complement that newsletter throughout the year with an email newsletter. That will take time to collect and get people to sign up for the email newsletter. At some point in the future, when everyone gets more and more digital, that may be the primary way we get communications out to our citizens. But this helps. I don't know. Staff was very high on doing this again. We did discuss taking that newsletter and putting it in the Arrow Shopper as an alternative. But we're not sure if as many people would read it through that method.
On the total budget, how much of it is grant money and how much is tax levy dollars, or is that the correct term to put it, or?
If you look at page 4, so flip back through to page 4. After the revenue line, you're going to see at the very bottom anticipated total levy. Everything after page 4 is pretty much grant work. So all the rest of these back pages, there are a couple funds in here, like the planning account is back in this back section, and like the vehicle count is in the back section, but otherwise it's mostly all grant monies. And the very bottom, you'll see the anticipated total levy has gone down from last year, or from 2022, it's going down in 2023.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Big part of this, one of the challenges in this budget, 7 of our 10 employees are in steps below the midpoint, and those salary steps are larger increases than when you're above the midpoint. So that's kind of one of the things that puts pressure on the budget.
Okay, any other questions?
Just a comment is, you accomplished the goal that Exec Finance set out for you. So with that in mind, granted, I had a question along with Tony on the, where were we here? The postage, no, whatever it was, but different things seem to have increases, but you've accomplished the 1% negative with what appears to be nothing negative to the department. So I think you're on track.
The fee increase helps out a lot. Probably the one thing that puts this budget at risk in any given year, if we had a significant decrease in permit revenue, a significant recession, decline in building permits on the UDC side and zoning permits. We try to budget those revenues on the conservative side so that, it's been pretty stable over the years, but there's always that scenario. Mm-hmm. The world is really crazy right now. We've got stuff going on in Eastern Europe with Russia, things with energy. It's really kind of crazy, and I'm not going to pretend to have a crystal ball. I'm not going to pretend. All I know is there's unforeseeable things that could happen, and that for us, for this budget, that would potentially, it depends to what degree a decline in building permits and zoning permits would be, but that would be some pressure on that. There's always a little bit of risk, but we've been pretty good at kind of towing the line there.
Yeah.
I think with the rates going up too, I mean, it's going to stop people from doing what they want to do too, so that could affect it.
Certainly could.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, comments for Mike, or regarding the budget, I should say? And I don't know that we need to take any kind of action on this. This is,
Well, we would like to approval to forward on to the
Okay.
Exec Finance Committee.
would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to move it on.
Okay, motion made by Larson, seconded by Todd. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Looks like a good budget. Next, we will get into the DLM fee schedule, adoption, discussion, possible action. So this directly ties to our previous one.
Yes, right now, our fees, our fees are not consolidated into one schedule of fees. Our fee schedule, to make it real easy to look at, but we're working on that to get that done. Again, last year, Uniform Dwelling Code fees were set to cover our costs. The main changes in this proposal are to address fees in the land use and sanitary area. Historically, in this area, we were a county that was a low-fee county. And what that essentially meant is that the average taxpayer was subsidizing the review of another individual's project. So by adopting increased fees along with the budget, what we do is we have fees that more closely cover our costs tied to a development project. So it takes pressure off the levy. It removes the subsidy from the average taxpayer, and it's really more in line. So most of the changes you see in here are really just to cover the costs. In some instances, as I went through this, I tried to keep our fees in the middle of our neighbors. There's two of our neighbors that have fees way higher than what's even proposed here. So most cases, you will find that we're right in the middle, higher than two counties, but lower than two others. Ag fees, I think some of them were adjusted a few years ago, and in my review, our fees were fine. I didn't think to cover our costs, there was a need to do that. Some other counties, like Clark County, on certain ag fees, livestock, that kind of stuff, they are much higher. In some cases, double. So this really is a modest. Our sanitary fees have not been updated since 2008. Keep in mind that in most of those fees, the state takes $100 of each of those permits, or most of those permits. So process-wise, in our county code, some instances it references that the ELU committee shall set a fee schedule. Other places it says list the fees right in the code. And so in those places, Corp Council has said we probably should have a public hearing on those. So today, it probably makes sense just to have a discussion, and then we can have a public hearing on these fees at the next September meeting.
Any thoughts from the committee?
Just a question, not pertaining so much to the new fees. We are being told that to change out a service in a residence, we need to get a permit and inspection. I don't see any category here where that fits in. We have been paying $50 for that, but is that identified and I'm not finding it in here?
I did not include the Uniform Dwelling Code fees because none of those are changing. So yeah, that's on me for not including that. And again, part of this is on the administrative side, pulling all these fees into, ultimately want to have one document with everything, and then whenever we need to update those, we can do that.
Any other thoughts, questions from the committee? Seems like a pretty logical thing to do.
Reasonable as far as the increase in cost.
An example here would be right now for a certified survey map review, we charge $55, regardless if there's one lot in the CSM or 4. $55. I think Jackson's at 50. Eau Claire and Buffalo have the fee changes depending on how many lots. And a one lot, I'm not, quote me exact dollars, but it's over $200 for one lot, like $280 for a second lot, $3 something for a third. And then somewhere in there on that sheet, it also mentions a submittal fee of $240. So you're approaching way over $500 right out of the gate. And the proposed fee here is $160. And that's based on, I tried to go for simplicity rather than having multiple lots. The average, our surveyor, the average review time is 2 hours. So essentially recovering 2 hours of his time. Some will take more, some will take less, but there's something to simplicity in my view.
And I'm thinking too, as we move forward when it comes to that, is the Trempealeau County itself, the people out there would rather not pay for somebody else's jobs that they're doing. So to raise the fee instead of coming back on taxes somehow, in some way, I just want to bring that out there and say, you know what, it's the people that are doing the job need to pay for, not the whole county need to pay for that one job.
Right.
So that's how we gotta look at
I
it.
And it's not always an exact science in this, for instance, like on these sanitary fees, or even we do land use visits and we're doing sewer inspections. Well, not everyone lives the same distance from the courthouse. So there's things like that. Our variance fee in here will go up substantially if adopted. I think we have it.
200 going to 450.
Well, that's the public hearing, or the variance would be 450. We get about two of those a year, and it's usually one item on the agenda. The true cost of that with a one item agenda, because we pay mileage, is probably closer to 600. But part of that, the reason I put it at 450 was, again, trying to stay in the middle of the pack of our neighbors. So there's judgment calls that I put in there. But that's a substantial increase for variances.
Any other thoughts? If not, we would plan on moving it forward for next month. We shouldn't need a motion to do that.
No.
So
We'll get this out for public hearing. All the appropriate parties will get notified, and we'll discuss it again then.
sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Okay, item number 8 is making postage meter a courthouse-wide program. Discussion, possible action.
Hi.
Becky?
Okay, so I brought this to Mike just because I know that we're all looking for ways to save money for the courthouse, and one of the ways that I know that our department has saved money is through our postage meter. I don't know if you guys are aware that if you work with an actual postage meter, you get a discount on postage. It's about 5 cents per letter. So that's actually a huge savings, and we actually have another couple departments who have joined in with us. The current postage meter that we have in our department can hold 100 accounts. So that could actually, one postage meter would be able to handle the courthouse. I know that there for sure are 2 in the building. I'm not sure about upstairs, but our department and Human Services both have our own. The treasurer's office is now working with DLM and land records. Every now and then I'll help out extension, but I'm able to divide up the whole bill and see exactly who charges what, and then I can send them out an invoice quarterly, depending on how much postage is built up. But the savings alone, I mean, if you figure 5 cents for every time our treasurer's office sends out a letter is huge. The other thing that's really great about the postage meter is if you have a parcel over 13 ounces, currently you have to take that to the post office and you have to declare it. If you're running it through a postage meter, you no longer have to do that. So I know that Jeremy or some of the other maintenance guys take our mail down now, And I know that they are the ones who are declaring it, but this will take all the guesswork out of it as well. And the other thing to think about with a postage meter is the time that it takes employees. So let's say that your office does not have a scale. You are now taking your your letters to the clerk's office. You are weighing them. You are coming back to your office, applying your stamps, and taking them back down to the courthouse or the clerk's office. That's a lot of steps. It's a lot of time. Whereas right now, even sending something internationally will take me literally a minute. If I'm sending, I don't know, 50 things, it can scan through extremely fast. And ours has the ability to self-seal as well, so you're not having to lick any of the envelopes. I just think that this is something that the county board should be aware of, and that if we can actually show some department support, maybe we can try to implement another savings for this courthouse.
Pretty good idea, I would think. Tony?
Is that more of a workload on you, keeping track of everything, or no? Or?
No, actually keeping track of all the stamps was more of a workload. So there's a couple different ways, and there's more than one company. Currently, we use Pitney Bowes. They've been really good to work with. If I ever have an issue, I can just do a quick chat with them online. I can see all of our account information online. Plus, I can see some of the account information on the machine itself. I really haven't had very many problems with it. I just switched us over to a credit system. I was prepaying everything, but we were going through postage so fast that I couldn't prepay it fast enough. So I switched us over to a credit system that we can just pay like a regular bill. You can lease the machine or you can rent the machine. We currently rent. I know that Human Services is more under a lease contract. We do $134 every quarter. So about every 3-4 months, that's our contract fee. But that fee is minimal compared to the amount of savings that I'm no longer having to check postage on. People come and they'll be like, oh, Becky, how many stamps do I put on this? So I'll have to stop what I'm doing, go through, look how much, weigh it, figure out the stamp costs, and then turn them over. Now, anybody can just go over, punch in the machine, set the envelope down, send it through, and it's on its way. I just feel that it's really beneficial for the courthouse to move into this direction.
So sharing that, and if the appropriate committees want to move this forward, I'm sure Becky can help move that forward.
Any thoughts from the committee? I think personally I'd like to see it move forward. There's no reason not to share that with others, so as long as it doesn't create more workload for you, I agree with Tony there.
So I think that personally that it should be housed. I really haven't had a conversation with Paul about it. I know that we have already started the process prior, and it kind of just stopped about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. We actually had the postmaster from Whitehall come in. We had a full meeting over it. He really would like to see us move to this. It'll actually cut down on a lot of envelopes coming back with not enough postage on it. But we did start the conversation, and all of a sudden it just stopped. So I don't know why it stopped or why we haven't moved forward from anything. But I know that I would like to see it start picking up speed again and figure out why we stopped talking about it.
So let me ask you this. So is some departments doing it? Is that what I'm understanding? And other departments are not?
Right. The treasurer's office, when they found out that this was an option and I could put them under our machine, they were very excited because it would make it a lot faster. They're not going to have to pre-order all of their envelopes with postage on them, and then you have to add additional postage if it's over. So I know that they were very excited, and it actually works a lot faster for Michelle. She'll come in and send her letters through, and she'll be done in a fraction of the time it would have taken her otherwise.
So how many machines would we need?
One. Because it can do 100 different accounts. So if this was housed in the clerk's office, like the mailing center used to be, then they could just print a report, let's say monthly, and just bill like they're billing for current postage. Each department would then just journal entry over, or they would just do the journal entry right there.
How many do we have now?
Two that I know of, for sure.
So we could actually get rid of one and put it in one central location and save that money also?
Right. Yep.
I believe
and
Human Resources, as Verge mentioned, they got private documents, that's why they want their own.
which makes sense.
Correct. So that's why.
These machines will also do large boxes as well. So like if you're UPS and stuff like that, it can do those as well. Something to think about if you guys are looking for other ways to kind of decrease spending.
Yeah.
Well, private, can't you put this machine inside of a private room? I'm just
That's
throwing it out
what
there.
it used to be. So our post, well, aside from buying postage in the clerk's office, there used to be a scale in a mail room, but we got rid of the mail room where the security center is now.
Oh. Okay.
Good idea.
It would just be the responsibility of whoever was doing the postage to click on their correct account. That would be the only worry you'd have to figure out, but.
Sure.
Could you put a code in it?
Yep, they're all coded. So you can have the treasurer's office has a code. Right now, I don't have them, so they're on lockdown because it's just 3 different people. So they just click their name.
Got it.
But
Or
it can be.
through the badge, the employee badge, could it be tracked that way or no?
I'm not sure. We'd have to talk to IT on that.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
It'd be simpler to scan
Okay.
the badge.
Just something to think about.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I like the badge idea. That'd be really slick if that was possible. Okay. Well, I think the committee would like to see it keep moving. Dave, do you have a
So I was
comment?
just gonna say, where do we start? What do we do at this point?
Yeah, how can we help?
Try to
I
move
mean-
it on.
I would say, it sounds like, in the past that there was an attempt to make it a building-wide thing, housed in the clerk's office or something like that. So this may be something that I would think maybe exec finance would
Yeah, I
have
was
for
thinking-
discussion.
That would be logical, I think.
Riley, would you know anything about that?
I'm not 100% sure, but you can send it over to finance and we can talk about it there, how to put in all that.
I guess the committee could refer this item to that committee and make a formal recommendation for them to take it up. And then that way it kind of has your blessing
Yeah,
to
move it
have
forward.
them to take that under consideration.
Not only that, it would have 2 committees looking at it, not just one, and they'll go through the finance, so then it makes more sense than dealing with some of the money.
Yes.
I make a motion that we recommend it goes to the finance committee, so they can take a look at it as well.
Okay, motion made by Foltz.
I'll second it for sure.
Second by Todd. Any other discussion?
Do we want to indicate that we think it's a good idea or just leave it blank
Um,
as part of the motion?
Well, we recommend that
We
they
recommend
pick it up,
support the
so,
idea.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So, all in favor of moving this forward, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Very good, Becky. We'll stick with you, I guess, for number 9, cost share payments.
So this month, we're pretty small yet. We won't really start approving a lot of contract or cost share payments until more towards the fall when projects are finishing up. But some of the ones that we're working on right now, this one is a nutrient management farmer education grant. So this one actually comes through DATCAP. It's funded through the SWARM program, or the Soil Water Resource Management Program. This one is mostly for getting farmers who have never used nutrient management plans to use them. So we have the option set up where we can pay for soil samples and for class incentives for them to write their own plans. So in these 3 payments that I've got listed right here, these people we are reimbursing for soil samples. For this grant, the stipend max is $750. So you'll see Tony Myers out of Township of Arcadia. He's doing $456 worth of soil samples. Corey Andre is doing $245 worth of soil samples. And Tim Pranchinsky, he's maxed out at $750. If we would have paid fully, his would have been like almost $1,000 in soil sampling. But this helps offset that cost to get these people going with their programs and hopefully getting them into a nutrient management plan, which will help reduce the phosphorus in the land or in the waters. So there are 2 types of funding with this program. There's Tier 1 funding, which is $20,000, and that is the program that we're using. So it's broken down into soil samples, classes, incentives, and then we can also do trainings. So try to kind of introduce farmers into the program. So we're pretty excited about it. This is the first 3 that our new person, Rick, has gotten put through. So we're excited.
Very good.
Just looking for approval to pay them out.
Okay, looking for a motion to approve payment of these cost shares.
Motion to approve payout.
Motion by Larson,
Second.
second by Munson. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. And that moves us down to our County Conservationist Operations Report. Charmaine.
Yeah, so we've completed 15 mine inspections and are currently working with Alpine and Patzner on reclamation. So we have I think there's about 24 mines over an acre, then there's 23 that are less than an acre and about 5 frac sand mines. So right now we're just trying to get the ones that are over an acre done first, because those are the ones that have to be reported to the DNR. So I'm also working with Haley on finalizing our 2023 tree order and numbers. So today I'm actually going to call the nurseries and get those orders finalized. And we'll have about 18 trees and a couple of shrubs this year, or for next year. Rick and Blake have roughly done 20 operation and maintenance inspections so far. I've also attended the statewide county con meeting, and Rick and I also attended the groundwater educational seminar, and both the county con meeting and the groundwater seminar were hosted in Stevens Point. We have some ideas on how we can apply those locally, which are being discussed within, amongst their staff. So yesterday, I emailed out the DACAP meeting for August 2022, and this is the 2021 Wisconsin report on soil and water conservation. And specifically, I just want to go over the nutrient management planning and education. So there in 2021 nutrient management plans reported, there was over 7,000 nutrient management plans reported by the counties in Wisconsin, and 35% of Wisconsin's of 9 million acres of cropland have been covered. And for Trempealeau, we have 16% of our county cropland in 2021 that are in nutrient management plans. And to compare us with our neighbors, Buffalo's at 15%, Jackson's at 14%, La Crosse is a little bit higher at 32%, and other counties across the state, for example, Marionette are at 63%, Brown County is at 75%. So we are working to get our numbers up higher, but so far we're in the same ballpark with our neighbors. So I just want to point those numbers out. So upcoming events, we have our farmer-led group. They will be hosting a field day on August 24th. I think it's from 10 to 1 p.m. at Rick Waldzine's farm outside of Galesville. And we plan to hand out brochures and provide information on nutrient management plans, as well as farmland preservation program. So be their contact source for information, and be available for them if they have any questions during their event. So.
Okay, any questions for Charmaine?
Yeah, what's the advantage of getting on or not getting on for this program for the farmers? Yeah.
So I believe that is actually a requirement for farmers to be on this program. So Rick would have more information on that. Mike?
The big thing, there are regulations out there, but the biggest benefit is farm profitability. Mm-hmm. If you have a plan, nutrient management plan, that means you're not applying more fertilizer and nutrients than you need, and so that it really comes down to trying to maximize your profits on your farm, and so there is of course the environmental aspects of having too much nutrients on a landscape, and so there's that aspect as well, but we like to emphasize profitability when it comes to nutrient management.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, thank you.
If you guys are ever curious about our grant programs, I actually did some small brief write-ups about each one of our grants. So if you did want to learn more about them, I can send those over to you, and you can read the background for each one of them. Otherwise, if you have questions, by all means, stop up. We're happy to go through all of the programs.
Tori?
I noticed like either in the fall or in the spring, there were some counties that turned their grant money in because they had no projects for that. Is that something one could partake in that year, or you need engineering and permitting and all that done before you could accept those funds?
Depends on the program. So if it's a land and water program or an SWRM, soil and water program, it's the same thing, just two different names. If, let's say that we are not going to use all of our SEG funds or our bond funds, we can put a thing out to the world or the state and let them know that, hey, Trempealeau County has X amount of dollars left over. Does anybody else have projects they can use it for? We can then do a transfer with them and pass them our money. Let's say that this is a conservation aids project. Not until the next year. That money will go back into the coffers, wait for people to do projects again for the next season, and then you can request more when you initially do your project. So we're allotted a certain amount of money based off of our population for conservation aids. I will most likely have, every time somebody comes in, the grant will be bigger than what we have available. So I will request for well more than what people were offered. And then we'll usually get a couple $1,000s more. So there's options that way, but it just depends on the program.
Becky, since we're talking about grants and we approved a budget today, can you just go over a little bit about that one grant program that covers staff salaries? Because I think that's an important thing for you guys to understand, that we have state grants that cover some of our salaries, and that's really, really important to our budget.
So land and water, SWRM, that is the grant. It's broken down into three. So you have bond funds, SEG funds, and you have staffing funds. They are really trying hard to figure out how to fund the three first positions. So position 1 would be funded at 100%, position 2 would be funded at 70%, and position 3 would be funded at 50%. We have yet to see our position 3 funded at 50%, but the state is well aware of the issues, and they're working hard to try to make sure that they're funding all three, is what the program was initially created for. But we have been getting at least a position and a half funded every year, so.
I can't emphasize enough, all these grant programs do so much to help citizens, landowners, producers in this county, and also to provide the services for the county, and it significantly impacts our budget in a positive way.
What positions then qualify for position 1, position 2, 3?
So it's, I sit down and I go through and I rank everybody out, okay, who's making the most. This includes fringe. Where's their position? Like Mike's position could never be classified as a position 1 because he doesn't do 100% of conservation work. So Charmaine's position would be ideal for position 1 because she should be the highest paid person and for 100% conservation when it comes to the conservation side of things. And then it would be a breakdown of like our conservation techs, or both Verge and my position. We both handle conservation work. And there might be instances where like Verge, let's say, could be paid more than a conservation tech when it comes to including her fringe benefits because she has a family plan, whereas a conservation tech has a single plan or something. So I have to go through all those numbers and figure out who's where in the line item and then if they qualify.
Randy?
I think that summary of these grant programs would be good for all of us. I mean, I'm speaking for myself, because
Agree with
I
that.
get lost quickly.
Be a good future agenda item.
It is,
Well, it helps us understand.
yeah, absolutely.
Interacts.
And where
Yep.
the money actually comes from.
Right,
Yep.
and that's one of the things, when I came into the position, it's just like, some of the grant programs are pretty similar, but there's nuances to it, but they're separate. And so it's still one of the challenges out there is understanding those programs. So that's one of the things I asked Becky to do. It's like, can we have some kind of like summary?
Yeah.
Don't need to get deep in the weeds, and so she pulled that together, and I think that's helpful for all of you as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
question with it. So the grant programs you're talking about, all of those, they seem to be very consistent year after year?
They have been, yes. So the numbers you'll see in the budget for, like, let's say land and water, they're last year's numbers. We won't find out about next year's numbers until about October. They won't approve them. So I have to use last year's as a place setter, but they're usually within 10,000. It's mostly the bond funds that move. We have pretty good control of our seg funds. Currently, we're not asking for a lot of seg funds because we don't have enough farmers who are participating in nutrient management. If we can boost more of that and getting new plans, then we can increase our seg fund requests. Seg funds are more for soft practices, so we can do cover crops with them. But for people who have not done them before, you can't already take somebody who's doing cover crops and then just pay them out for it. We have to be introducing somebody into nutrient management. So finding those farmers is very hard, especially right now. These guys have their work cut out for them because they don't know what's going to happen with farming. So farmers are very leery about enrolling in a program. So it's a lot of education and a lot of back and forth with the conservation staff. So it's
And one of the keys, again, to that newsletter, the hard copy newsletter going out, as well as the email newsletter, is there's a real need for us to do more outreach and connections with landowners and producers. So that's part of the emphasis on that. We need to do more of that and get better at that.
I want to ask a question, and it's from earlier this year when it comes to spraying the sides, talking about,
Road ditches?
stuff about reducing the weeds and things like that. I got people farmers coming talking to me about, they have a farm that is, they don't put nothing on it, your organic farms and stuff. They don't want that stuff sprayed. Is there anything that we can do? How much money does that cost us or the state to spray it, to say, okay, now, if you guys chose not to spray it, but you got to take care of it? I mean, is there anything like that we can do to help these farmers out also, since we're talking about nutrition and things like that for their fields? Can we?
The ditch area
The ditch
primarily?
area right up to, I mean, they have no choice, they get sprayed no matter what.
Of course, if it's a county highway, they can work with Al, and I would hope he would work with them and take that into consideration. I know other counties and jurisdictions, municipalities have have policies to work with organic farmers, and again, that's really probably more of a town government with town roads. It'd be more of their role, but I would hope that they would have a program that would find a way to work with those farmers.
I think I could possibly help answer that. The reason we are spraying currently is this wild parsnip or the noxious. If we cut that, the seed gets spread, so we create more. So I think they're hoping to spray 1 or 2 years to try to eliminate this weed, and then it'll be back to a mowing program instead of, but I mean, I understand the organic side, but it's the road right away. We can, public safety, we got to do what we got to do.
So, good questions. Okay, thank you, Becky. And yes, we should add a little more training on some of the programs and grants that we get. Yeah, maybe we could add that as a future agenda item.
Do you want to see an actual training in a meeting, or do you want to have stuff sent out to you guys? What would you prefer?
What do you think? We could start with sent out, and then we ask questions maybe at a meeting?
Yeah.
Let's do it that way.
Familiar.
Yeah. Okay. So next item is item 12, our county surveyor's report. Payment approval, discussion, possible action.
Yeah, let's see, the grand total for this invoice currently through July 28th is $6,633.85, and that covers corner maintenance and did you guys get this document?
Yes.
So, okay, so I won't read off what sections, but the total bill's that, and I think it shows the maps of where the maintenance is being done. So, again, the total bill is $6,633.85.
Any questions on the county surveyor's report? Otherwise, look for a motion.
Motion to
regarding-
approve payment.
Motion Larson. Second Todd. Any other discussion or questions regarding the surveyor's report? I'm sure Joe will be coming sometime later fall, I would assume.
Sure, yep.
So, all right, all in favor? Dave, do you have a question?
No.
Oh, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. DLM Director Operations Report, Mike.
This past Monday, we had our first solar farm study committee. So we had good discussions there and are getting our speakers, our presenters scheduled in the coming weeks. Also, a couple weeks ago now, I think it was, I was at the Countywide Towns Association meeting, gave a DLM update at that meeting down at the town of Trempealeau. And so those, even if I'm not on the agenda, I tend to go to those meetings to give people an opportunity to talk to me before and after the meetings on things. That's one of the ways I like to stay connected to with all the town boards. So those are some things going on. Of course, we've been busy pulling together the budget, and I think we're on a good course there. And of course, Charmaine went over the conservation things, and so we're moving forward with day-to-day operations. And probably coming up, probably fall and winter, we'll probably have an opportunity to do some more work on ordinance amendments on a couple of areas. So we'll be having some public hearings and discussions about other code ordinance changes.
Okay. Any other questions, comments for Mike? Sounds good. Thank you for all your work. Future agenda items. Is there anything else? We mentioned we'll dig through the program stuff, and all can learn a little bit more. Is there anything else anyone wants to add to our future agendas? If not, you can always get a hold of Mike or myself if you'd like to see something added, and we'll work on that. Otherwise, our next regular meeting date is scheduled for September 7th. Does that date still work for everybody? Tony?
I have one thing back. How is it going with our building inspector company or whatever? Everything moving smoothly or what with them?
We haven't had any complaints. I haven't received any complaints.
Verge, you heard anything?
Seems to be going smoothly. I think I'm not quite sure where our numbers are compared to last year, but as far as delivering a service and how that program's working out, again, no complaints.
Just a comment from a personal standpoint, my partner Tom has said he's very easy to work with. And when you get to an issue that's gray, he's willing to work and help with you.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. Because, I really appreciate that because a lot of times I think in when we wear our regulatory hats, the feedback you tend to get is more on the negative side. And so when you hear one positive remark, that really kind of means more than one comment sometimes. So I really appreciate that feedback.
Okay. Otherwise, we will meet back here on September 7th at 8:30. Still work? We'll go with that. And then I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.